First at 4, we're following breaking news coming out of the nation's capital. The U.S. Capitol under siege right now as pro-Trump rioters breach the doors of the House of Representatives. This is video from earlier today, moments after a group of pro-Trump rioters broke through a barricade outside the Capitol as lawmakers were voting on certifying the election results.
Hundreds of the president's supporters pushed their way up the Capitol steps, prompting D.C. police to lock down both houses of Congress. And D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser declared a curfew that went into effect at 6 p.m. Eastern Time.
I want to go to some live pictures right now as evening has fallen in Washington, but you can still see a large police presence. Unfortunately, today's disturbances, riots, however you want to label it, it's turned deadly. One woman shot and killed today during the melee. Also, several bombs have been disarmed. It has been a disturbing, unbelievably dark day in our nation's capital.
And the D.C. National Guard has been called in to help with all this. Right now, we want to send things to Alice Barr with a report from the Capitol.
The time-honored American tradition of counting electoral votes was interrupted today as protesters stormed the U.S. Capitol on behalf of a president who refuses to accept defeat. As Vice President Mike Pence and lawmakers were rushed to safety, demonstrators with large flagpoles were seen wandering through the corridors unchallenged as the Capitol complex went into a security lockdown. Tonight, President Trump urging the protesters to stand down.
But you have to go home now. We have to have peace.
President-elect Biden issued a strong condemnation.
It's not protest, it's insurrection.
The extraordinary scenes playing out on a day when Congress met in a joint session to count electoral votes that already certified Joe Biden as the winner. A group of Trump loyalists slowing down the normally standard procedure by rejecting results from a handful of battleground states, starting with Arizona.
Is the objection in writing and signed by a senator?
Yes, it is.
It is.
The objections drawing outrage from Democrats, also sharply dividing Republicans.
If this election were overturned by mere allegations from the losing side, our democracy would enter a death spiral.
Vice President Mike Pence presiding in a strictly ceremonial role defined by the Constitution. And in a letter to lawmakers shortly before the session opened, he rejected President Trump's repeated pleas to intervene. The congressional proceedings a sharp contrast to the gathering blocks away of the president and his most loyal supporters who refused to concede the inevitable.
Let's go back 8 weeks. We want to go back and we want to get this right.
Sound and fury, pomp and circumstance ahead of a foregone conclusion. One significant question to be answered in the coming days: why were authorities not better prepared, given that protesters had made it clear they were headed to the Capitol and wanted to stop the proceedings? In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
And our team coverage continues. Team 12 political insider Bram Resnick joins us now with the reactions we're getting from our Arizona lawmakers.
All Arizona members of the House and Senate report they are safe. The chaos started as Congress was hearing the objections to Arizona's vote for Joe Biden.
I rise up for myself and 60 of my colleagues to object to the counting of the electoral ballots from Arizona.
But Congress never got around to voting on Flagstaff Congressman Paul Gosar's objection to Arizona's electoral votes. This was the scene in the House of Representatives just 2 hours later. Arizona Congressman Greg Stanton of Phoenix and Raul Grijalva of Tucson, among many members, grabbing gas masks and evacuating the House, with rioters near their front door. Stanton tweeting afterward, "No matter how many terrorists break into the Capitol, the president's conspiracy to stop a transition of power, aided by members of the House, will not succeed. We must return to session and vote down this attempted coup d'etat." This tweet praising Congressman and Marine veteran Ruben Gallego of Phoenix for helping fellow members with their gas masks. Gallego tweeting, "I am safe. Democracy is not. We need National Guard to clear the Capitol so we can continue with our jobs." Governor Doug Ducey was a rare Republican voice condemning the mob. The scene at the United States Capitol right now is wrong and has no place in our form of government. All should denounce, and it should end now. In Phoenix, Bram Resnick, 12 News.
Bram, thank you. And the protests are not just limited to Washington.
Team 12's Bianca Bono is live for us from another pro-Trump protest, this one going on outside the Arizona state capitol. Bianca, what's happening out there?
Yeah, hey guys, good afternoon. Well, this is a Protect the Vote or Stop the Steal rally happening outside the Arizona State Capitol. It's been going on for quite some time now, since early this morning, in fact. We want to give you a look at what's happening right now. At its peak, I would say there were at least a couple thousand people here right now. Of course, you could see the crowd has thinned out a bit, but still a significant group of people that have stayed out for hours at this point. And this is a group of President Trump supporters. And the way that this gathering was described to me was a gathering of a group of like-minded people coming together to watch a live feed of Congress meet to discuss the electoral college votes. Of course, that quickly changed, as we've reported already this afternoon, as chaos ensued in Washington, D.C. And I did have a lot of people on Twitter asking me, is this group here aware of what's been going on at our nation's capital? And the answer is yes, because there have been lots of screens placed throughout the Arizona State Capitol that have been showing a live feed of what was happening in Washington, D.C. Another observation I want to point out, this is a lot of similar people that we've seen in the past couple of months outside the elections department for similar protests there, including the Proud Boys, the far-right extremist group. Not sure if you could see any now. They've moved in the past 10 minutes or so. They wear black shirts with gold lining on them, and we've seen quite a few of them out here this afternoon today. Another thing I want to point out, the presence of law enforcement here. We haven't seen many on the ground in the crowd here, but if you notice on top of some of the Capitol buildings, you'll see law enforcement very present there. Also, if you take a look at Sky 12 video taken right at the top of the hour, we saw armored vehicles move into the area just to make sure that things remain peaceful, which they have. Earlier this afternoon, I did speak with one of President Trump's supporters about what brought her out here today and at what point she would accept Joe Biden as her president. Here's what she had to say. Will you accept Joe Biden as the next
I will never accept him. He is not the president of the United States of America. He was the Dominion voting systems that was used. He is not our president, and he will never be our president.
But this is just a battle, and this battle is about to.
And I think it does bear repeating, though we've said it many times over the past couple of months, we have not found any evidence of voter fraud and election fraud here in Arizona. So again, this group of President Trump supporters planning to be out here until at least 7 o'clock or so. You can see them setting up shop with chairs, flags, snacks, drinks. So we'll give you another update throughout the evening. For now, we're live at the Arizona State Capitol. Bianca Bono, 12 News.
Bianca, thank you. It is important to clarify that regardless of the protests happening in Washington and right here in Arizona, 2 weeks from today, President-elect Joe Biden will still formally be sworn in as the nation's 46th president.
Let's try to put all of this craziness into perspective on what's happening today. You look at these still images, and it's hard to believe that this is the U.S. Capitol. It's hard to believe that this is happening not in some foreign country where they are trying to overthrow a dictator, but in America. What we're seeing here wasn't democracy, it wasn't civil disobedience, it was terrorism committed not by a foreign power, but by our fellow Americans.
And no matter how many pictures you see and how much video you watch, I mean, it really is surreal to think this is the country that we so proudly want to embrace as America. And on the heels of such a tumultuous 2020 between the pandemic, all the social unrest, all the political unrest and divisiveness that's been happening. I mean, this, as we rang in 2021, we were hoping that this would be a better year, and this is not the start to a new year that we ever thought that we would see.
And we have to get back to some sense of civility in this country. We want to thank you for joining us and thank you for putting your trust in us. We will continue to cover this breaking news as it continues to develop on air and online at 12news.com and on our free 12 News app.